Today we're going to talk about King of Thorns. People are going about their business in New York City's congested streets when a lady falls from the sky. I'm sure it was much like any other day in New York. That's a joke, by the way. But what was unusual about this tragedy was that instead of cleaning blood and brain fragments off the ground, they were cleaning stone. The health organization had to segregate the entire region because they were dealing with a sickness called the Medusa virus. Doctors all across the world were unable to identify a cause or a treatment for the Medusa strain. According to a newscaster, the sickness has an incubation period of 30 to 60 days after infection. And in the second stage, the body begins to turn to stone. This petrification procedure can be completed in as little as 12 hours. So far, the death rate is 100%, causing global mayhem. In the midst of the economic collapse and escalating political tensions, a Russian businessman named Ivan Viga declares that his firm, Venus Gate, is looking for a cure and that they are close to finding one. Meanwhile, U.S. officials gather to consider the possibility that the Medusa virus is a biological weapon created by Venus Gate, and that Viga is insane. After additional negotiations, the officials agreed to spy on and perhaps sabotage Venus Labs, dubbing the project Sleeping Beauty. After the U.S. president died of Medusa, people are transported to the Venus Gate lab, located within a huge castle, by 3 buses. These individuals have volunteered to be placed in a state of hibernation. Scientists found that freezing the body before the virus takes effect will stop the petrifying process. Inside the castle, a receptionist collects the main character Kasumi's information and provides her a bracelet. Then she's informed she needs to leave her twin sister Shizuku, a happy, confident beam of sunshine, so she may attend the briefing for the visitors that Chairman Vegas is giving. At the end of the briefing, one of the guests raises an excellent point. What if the folks in charge die while the volunteers are frozen? The solution is straightforward. Alice, an artificial intelligence system, controls and manages the castle. This technology also monitors the occupants' physical and mental states via bands worn on their wrists. Then we see Kasumi sitting alone, staring at her bracelet. We can see a scar on her wrist beneath it, indicating self-harm and unhappiness. Kasumi considers going into hibernation despite the fact that she would be alone for 100 years without her loving and supporting sister. Outside, the girls argue because Kasumi does not want to sleep alone. So her sister, who is plainly upset by the separation, assures her that she thinks they will soon meet again. The next day, the volunteers give in their personal possessions before going through several examinations to be placed in chambers. The AI inside it relaxes Kasumi before beginning the freezing procedure. Then we see several troops shooting rifles and a flashback to the girls' lovely time together. Kasumi awakens along with the others. They are astounded to see that the facility they are in is surrounded by thorny vines. While glancing around, a monstrous dinosaur-like bat descends on Kasumi's chamber, knocking her to the ground. Fortunately, she is caught by 2 men who inquire as to what is wrong. A swarm of these hideous-looking bats fly down when she points up. People fall to their deaths after forcing open the elevator door and entering without understanding there is no elevator. A horrible creature rises from the death pit and tries to capture an old man, but he is saved by Kasumi and a blonde guy, who is sadly grabbed by the monster's tentacles and crushed to death. In the following scene, we witness a group of survivors consisting of a boy, a blonde lady, a middle-aged man, an old man, a cop, a criminal, and Kasumi. They hang about and attempt to figure out what's going on. The gang's strong alpha men are arguing, but the attractive blonde calms them down by slapping the men and acting like she's in charge. They choose to advance to the higher levels soon after. The gang covers their bare feet in wraps to protect them from the thorns. As they make their way up the tower, Kasumi wonders why the jacked-up criminal Marco looks so familiar. The gang soon arrives to a dead end surrounded by water and confronted by a monster that detaches the old man's head. When the gang tries to flee, Tim, the small kid, yells after them, telling them that the creature is called a Demonsaurus, and it follows victims using sound because it has poor vision. Marco grabs Tim and tosses him into the water with Catherine, the blonde woman. Following that, the members of the group leap in. Catherine, on the other hand, realizes that Kasumi is nowhere to be found. Marco searches for her and discovers her unconscious under the water. He saves her with the assistance of Peter, a middle-aged man with glasses. After returning Kasumi, the gang discovers that they are encircled by a dozen Demonsauruses. They run as Marco tries to slow the creatures down. They then discover some firearms and shoot at the beasts. After surviving this wave, the gang reassembles in a security room to treat minor injuries and reload their weapons. While trying to figure out their situation from the computers in the room, Catherine suddenly has a mental breakdown and threatens to slap Tim. Then she comes to, cuddles the small kid, and apologizes to him. Ron the cop makes a humorous joke about Catherine hiding something from her past. Marco says that she isn't and that Peter's the real imposter. So they drill in with questions until he snaps and takes Kasumi as a hostage and runs to the elevator. In the elevator, Peter makes an interesting remark saying, "What the hell are you then?" The scene cuts to the boys packing some heat preparing for the rescue mission. However, unknown to them, a horde of demon Soros is surrounding them, which puts the rescue mission on hold. They now need to sneak their way further up the tower via a broken bridge covered with thorns. Everything is fine until Kathy's hand is pricked by a thorn, alerting the demon Soros to their location. Marco responds fast and blasts a gasoline canister, causing the area underneath them to explode. It now cuts to dismal flashbacks from Kasumi's past. She wakes up inside a lab with monster samples. She then overhears Peter conversing with someone who turns out to be Marco. They were obviously working together. Peter rushes to talk to Kasumi when Marco leaves the room since he knows she was listening. Before being slain by the demon Soros, he offers her a chip with important information about Medusa. Marco enters the chamber and shoots the demon Soros as he turns to Kasumi. Then they flee for their life, but the monster pursues them until they reach a hole in the ceiling. They can't climb up with the monster behind them. As Marco fights the monster, Kasumi loses the chip, which catches fire from the Molotov cocktails Ron and Kathy threw at the creature. Soon later, the group, which has now reunited, makes its way to a storage area. Marco confronts the gang with his true identity. The guy turns out to be a second lieutenant dispatched by the US to blow up the facility. If the rumors are accurate, Venus Gate created Medusa as a biological weapon. His confession session, however, was cut short as the floor began to shake and something began slamming the door. That something was none other than Venus Gate's CEO, Russian Dr. Ivan Viga. Dr. Viga speaks up about what occurred. He claims that a test subject became uncontrollable and escaped his grasp. Dr. Viga said that the whole hibernating thing was really an experiment to discover how to manipulate dreams and make them come true. Dr. Viga now leads the group as they ascend through a concealed route. As Viga recounts, meteors lit up the sky over a Siberian town 8 years ago. We learn how the story began. Except for one girl, all of the occupants perished of an unexplained sickness. The ministry suspected a virus, but the problem was a beast that attacked his troops. They attacked it and defeated it in a shower of gunshots. This animal, ripped to bits, was the oddest creature he'd ever seen. The biological rules that govern all known life simply did not apply to it. The beast had materialized from the girl's thoughts. It turns out that the girl, the demon monkey which she drew, and the Medusa are all linked. Viga keeps going that by bringing the creature to life, the girl survived Medusa's effects. As Viga begins to describe the events that led up to this point, he leads them to a chamber where Alice is. Alice appears to have died, yet her mind continues on as an AI. All of a sudden, Viga tries to kill himself by taking a pistol hidden inside the glass coffin. But Kasumi and Marco stop him and demand that he lead them to the test subject who has gone insane. As she suspects by now that it's actually her sister. However, the thorn vines come bursting out of the ground and Tim runs away and the men follow him. Their route was blocked by the monster that refuses to die, so Marco remained behind to confront it. When it appeared that Marco's time was up, a sword pierced straight through the demon's throat, rescuing Marco but petrifying Peter and sacrificing his life in the process. When Marco returns to the group, we learn that Alice kidnapped the boy's body and led them to this point. Tim regained control when she claimed she was safeguarding the appropriate host as part of her mission. With their backs against the wall, the gang chooses to plunge into the rising water as their only option for survival. After considerable struggle, the gang is now outside the fortress. They glance around and notice that the castle is surrounded by thorns. Kasumi climbs the hill where she last saw her twin sister and notices a camcorder on the ground. She switches it on and views a video of her sister suffering a seizure. Before the tape ends, she realizes that this thorny landscape is the result of her sister's nightmares. She flees back to the castle, and Marco attempts to stop her by shouting her name and imploring her to return with them, claiming that her sister is no longer the girl she knows. Kasumi refuses and enters the castle, while Marco, Tim, and Catherine board a helicopter and fly to the castle, which has been transformed into a dragon. Catherine suddenly pulls a revolver on Marco. She tells him to fly away because she wants to live happily ever after with Tim as her new son since her own son died at the facility. Marco informs her that there is no escape since the thorns will swallow the entire globe. Meanwhile, Kasumi is continuing looking for Shizuku, using a computer to pinpoint her whereabouts. Back outdoors, Marco is reviewing the Sleeping Beauty story when Catherine coughs and accidentally fires the pistol multiple times. This causes the chopper to spin out of control, striking a vine and sending Marco flying outside. He does, however, manage to cling onto the castle's roof before re-entering the castle through a window. Fortunately for him, he ends up in the same room with Kasumi. She inquires about Tim and Kathy's well-being, to which he responds that he does not believe they are alive anymore after watching them crash by the side of the castle. Inside, Marco agrees to assist her in finding her sister. They dash to the site. We witness everything turning to stone, even Catherine, who died while holding little Tim. When Marco and Kasumi arrive to the facility, Marco begins to have hallucinations. He sees his own sister, who perished as a result of Medusa. Not only that, but this false sister begins assaulting him. But it soon becomes clear that it is Alice who is controlling Marco's mind and hitting him. She explains to him the events that lead to this scenario and that Medusa's is a mental virus that mostly infects persons who have experienced trauma because their minds are concentrated but also vulnerable enough for the virus to take over. During her conversation, Marco begins to analyze the scenario and determines that she is manipulating his mind via the chip Team Venus gate placed into the volunteers' necks. So he shoots himself in the neck, snapping back to reality. While shutting down Alice's system, Marco gets a hefty knock to the stomach. Kasumi, on the other hand, is having her own delusions. Kasumi begins conversing with a thorn-based clone of Shizuku. She tells Kasumi to go and live her life happily, but Kasumi refuses and insists on speaking with the real Shizuku. So the clone binds her up with vines. But Kasumi does not back down and tries to escape the vines, injuring herself in the process. Shizuku notices it and becomes overwhelmed, to the point where she loses control of the vines outside. When Alice eventually goes down completely, Shizuka loses control of her dream, allowing Kasumi to crawl to her sister's lifeless body. The clone reappears and grabs Kasumi by the leg, telling her not to stare at Shizuku's body. But Kasumi manages to escape when she glances at Shizuka's wrists. She begins to get flashbacks to everything that has transpired. When her sister went up the hill, Kasumi was so distraught about having to sleep alone that they tried a double suicide. Shizuku, reluctant to die, clings to the brink, and as she looks down, we find Kasumi dead. Kasumi passed away some time ago. Shizuku's fantasy of sleeping with her family in a castle covered by thorns became a reality after witnessing such a horrific tragedy. In terms of the deceased sister, Shizuku dreamt her sister to life. Therefore, the Kasumi we see now is a product of Shizuku's imagination. She brought her sister back to life in her dreams. All of this is exposed. The castle crumbles. Shizuku uses a golden vine to push Kasumi out of the crumbling roof in order to save her. She is subsequently saved by Marco and they leap out of a window into the water. Shizuku grew vines to catch them and gently place them on the ground. Now that the smoke had calmed, Marco requested Kasumi to enjoy a good life as he died sitting up and smiling. Kasumi kisses him on the cheek before going to check for anyone else in the neighborhood, along with young Tim, who is still alive. The end.